It's getting increasingly difficult to get accurate information from frontlines. There's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of, even AI, deepfakes.
Yes.
People have a hard time distinguishing, is this real, is this not real? And I imagine that you've, since the beginning of the war in 2014, you've seen this evolving very much. How do you feel like it has become worse today? Has it become worse today? I feel it has, but you tell me your opinion.
Yeah, it has become more difficult to do what we do in so many ways. First of all, many countries consider information as a weapon, and therefore, by extension, they consider journalists and filmmakers as targets, as soldiers, which we aren't. But, if there is a drone operator that sees a journalist and targets it, targets the journalist, then, or a sniper, seeing press signs still shoots you, that tells you that you're not protected anymore, that you are a target. So that's one thing. The second is that technology has changed. The reason why we don't see much right now reporting from the front line is there is also a security reason to that. It's just became so dangerous to get to the ground zero that 2 years later, after 2,000 meters to Andriivka, it would be impossible to do what we've done back then. The weapons are so much more precise. The robotic systems are so widespread. The drones are everywhere that you just can't walk and you can't shoot. So it's also that. It's not available anymore. All you see is drone footage, but because just no human can walk. The Third Assault Brigade that we're telling the story of, right now they carry some of these assaults we see in 2,000 meters to Andriivka. Right now they carry some of those assault operations entirely with unmanned systems. So drones rolling instead of people on the ground with the machine guns. Drones observing the battlefield, attack drones coming and hitting the enemy. The mother drone is flying over the battlefield, giving the signal to other drones. All that is real, and for journalist who doesn't have a gun, who has no means to protect himself or herself, to survive in those conditions, it's unreal, it's impossible. So that's another challenge that we are facing.
Yeah, and you mentioned that in the movie. You say in the documentary, you say you cannot wear press anymore because that would make us even more of a target than a soldier. Was that always like that since the beginning, or is this something that happened now in the full scale?
Depending on where you are, in which war you are, that was always the case. I wouldn't say this is unique to Ukraine. And I would also say that, of course, whenever you can, you wear the journalist vest. That still sometimes can be a protection, or at least makes you less of a priority target because they know you don't have a weapon. But still, I know that when we were walking there, following Fedya, who was carrying the flag with a camera, we would be a primary target because Russians knew that picture is important, that picture that we were going to make would mean a lot for the entire country, would signify another victory of Ukrainian soldiers. So yeah, you are a target because there are pictures that they just don't want you to make.
They don't want those images of resistance to infect the rest of the population.
Yeah. The battle is for names. The battle is for symbols. The battle is for images of victory. Not just for physical spaces.
Interesting. where do you think the war is right now? Like, what is your assessment? Because we've had back and forths, we have negotiations that have stalled, we have ultimatums. It doesn't seem like this is close to a resolution. What is your assessment right now?
You know, interestingly, almost none of this important news that we hear every day from the negotiations, from possible sanctions, from everything that is happening in the political space, almost none of that makes it to the front line. For the people on the front line, words have very, very little significance. Actions do mean something, but words, no. And that's what they hope when I go and I talk to these guys. That's what they hope, that all the speaking translates into actual actions. But what I know for sure, that every day that people are not taking actions, every day that in the political space is another delay, more people are dying in Ukraine. If the war was over, if the peace was achieved day before yesterday, maybe those civilians who died in Kiev overnight would be alive.
So do you think that Ukraine will overcome this?
Ukraine, certainly, just by watching Fedya, just by watching this, these guys do impossible against all the odds and relying only on themselves in that and on their community. I have absolutely no doubt that Ukraine will survive and then will exist, because beyond all the terrible things that happened to my country, something amazing happened. The civil society, the identity, the collective identity, Ukrainian identity, was strengthened and built on the tragedies that happened to us, and this made us stronger.
And so what do you hope that this documentary can achieve? Because one of the things that I've noticed is that the war in Ukraine has kind of faded in terms of the media, and people are more preoccupied with other conflicts. And when you don't have a spotlight, you don't have as much pressure to help and to solve the situation.
And not to say that other places in the world where people are suffering and dying is less important. Every single human life, whether it's in the Middle East or in Ukraine or in Africa or in Latin America, every single life matters. And the spotlight has to be on all the pain in the world, and it just shouldn't exist, right? And wars shouldn't exist. But for me, for Ukrainian, of course, I wish people would pay more attention to what is happening in Ukraine, to the humanitarian crisis that is happening in Ukraine, to the personal tragedies that we live through every day, and trying to make big statements with film is condemning yourself to fail. That's what I learned. However big attention your film gets, whatever statement you make is never going to be enough to stop the war. But what I can do is to ensure that the memory of those who lost their lives is living in history for Ukraine and for those who will want to look back and see how this war really unfolded. And at the same time, if we talk about international audiences, I just want it to become a very simple message, a simple picture of men trying to push the criminal, to fight criminal out of their house. The criminal who came, burnt down half of the house, killed members of our families, and trying to get more. And these men are just trying to kick them out. I think if that simple message, which has no political context or background, cannot be really contested or questioned, because that's basic reality of what's happening. If that simple message gets to the audience, if they see themselves in these men, then my job is done.
And your this documentary highlights how important it is to have voices that document and eyes that document. As a journalist or a documentarian, these things. Do you plan on continuing doing this? Like, what is the future for you as a journalist / documentarian?
Well, the journalism and public media now under scrutiny. It is a very, very hard time both for independent journalism and both for public media. We see the PBS and the Frontline, with who this film was made, losing the funding, and I feel very sad about it, because these films that were made, both 2,000 Meters to Andriivka and 20 Days in Mariupol, wouldn't be possible without Frontline, without AP, so without the independent journalism and public media. That just wouldn't be there. Those films wouldn't be made. And I hope we get through this difficult time, and I hope the public will recognize how important it is to have independent journalism and public media, because almost every war in the world has been, especially invasions, have been started on the premise of a lie. Russia invaded Ukraine because they lied to their people why they do it. And we live in a time when it's very easy to create a lie, easier than ever. And therefore, the journalism that protects truth, and the documentary filmmaking that protects truth and preserves it, is, I guess, this just the only way to survive, because it's so easy to lie right now to public. It's so easy to create a lie. It's easy for people who want to start a war to start a war. It has never been easier to start a war. And therefore journalists have to fight harder to prevent lie from spreading.
So we will continue seeing things from you.
Yes, for sure. Until Ukraine is in peace, I will be doing what I'm doing. I will be doing films about war. I just hope my next film is about the ending of this war. I really hope so.
Amazing. Thank you.